right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Thank you very much, Ken. Welcome, everybody, to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Josh Taylor, in tonight for Bob Pompiani. Quite a bit to discuss in the world of Pittsburgh sports today. Chief among those things, Steelers' first preseason game kicks off tomorrow night in Philadelphia. That is where Pomp and Rich Walsh both are. We continue to bring you coverage both today and going into tomorrow, getting ready for that game. Also, Pirates getting 2 out of 3 in Colorado in a much-needed series as far as the wild card race is concerned, to get 2 out of 3 there. And more importantly, the way they did it, with really good pitching, and to limit Colorado's offense to only 7 runs in 3 games in their own home park, where offense is usually inflated in Denver. I think it's pretty interesting as well, too. So that's a fun thing we could talk about. Also, Pitt continues to roll along with their camp as well. Pat Narduzzi's talked about the progression of his team. He's talked about the quarterback position. Obviously, there's Kenny Pickett, there's Ricky Town, and there's been a lot of discussion about those 2 guys. Both of those quarterbacks have talked in the past couple days as well, so a lot to expect, both with Pitt, also with Penn State and West Virginia as well. I think going into this season, you look at these 3 teams as teams that are all making strides forward, but also have to overcome a few things. West Virginia's lost a few veteran guys, as have Penn State on offense, and as have Pitt, both on offense and on defense. So a lot of adjustments have to be made with each of these programs. So that's something else to pay attention to as well. Moving forward from that, some interesting talk in the NCAA as well. A new rule adopted by the NCAA as far as college basketball is concerned, allowing players to hire agents, and even some high school players. They have to be licensed, obviously, with the NCAA to do so. Plus, it will allow undrafted underclassmen to return to school if they're not drafted in the NBA draft. So there's some changes there also. A lot of changing in the landscape of college basketball, and a lot of it probably in response to the investigation with the FBI and to some of the corruption in college basketball. But to help me talk about all those topics and maybe even a few more, guest joins me here in studio from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Gene Collier's here. Gene, how are you?
Josh, I'm well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. Always good to talk to you. Well, let's start with the Pirates here, just since there's the more recent thing that's happening this afternoon. They win a close one in Colorado, 4-3 the final score, but they get a win there. Really good pitching throughout this series. Musgrove, Tyone, Archer, these 3 guys come in and really all do their job. Musgrove probably the guy who didn't get the run support he deserved. Sure. However, but those guys limiting Colorado to 7 runs in 3 games in a ballpark where you're expected to score runs pretty much ad nauseum.
Right, and this is kind of a back and forth now with the Pirates. Obviously, great starting pitching throughout an 11-game win streak. Then it kind of went away for a week. Now this week, much better. Musgrove, the best of them. Chris Archer in his 2nd start today. Better, not great, but better. 5 innings, gets a win. Now, of course, it's on to San Francisco and then to Minnesota on a 3-city, 10-day trip, where not like an ordinary road trip, Josh. I mean, the Pirates have got to the stage where you can't just get 4 or 5 of these and be happy with it. They have to really stack wins, regardless of where they're playing or who they're playing. Especially
when you're facing teams like Colorado that are in the wild card race, right, and more importantly, ahead of the Pirates in the wild card race. So you got to try to catch those teams. And the best way to catch teams that are ahead of you, beat them head to head, because you gain a full game in doing so. So obviously that becomes a lot more important. Sure. Going into the Steelers tomorrow, first preseason game against Philly. Anything in particular you're looking for in this game, or is it too early to maybe try to find something to look at in this game?
In the exhibition games, I'm always looking for the absence of the cart. I don't like to see anybody leave the field. But beyond that, and that remains the most important thing, Josh, you're interested, of course, in see what happens in the return game with Quadri, obviously. James Washington, Jalen Samuels, these guys, these are really important games to them, as they are to a certain number of marginal linemen. It's not very entertaining, but it's really important to certain people, no doubt about it.
And perhaps the thought of no Antonio Brown starting, no Ben Roethlisberger playing, no Le'Veon Bell there, no T.J. Watt, no Bud Dupree. They're both out with injury. So some of the more important guys on this team, of course, Ramon Foster's already out. So some of the more important guys on this team are already out with whatever situation. So it might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise as well if you look at it that way.
Well, yeah, I highly recommend not playing football until you absolutely have to.
That's a good way to look at it. We will take a break here. We come back. We will take your phone calls. We'll take your tweets, 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Stay with us.
The Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by Ireland Contracting, Pittsburgh's #1 home exterior expert in roofing, siding, windows, and gutters.